You are walking through the woods on a Sunday afternoon, and for a moment, everything feels peaceful. A squirrel pauses on a branch, watches you for a heartbeat, and then bolts as if its life is in danger. We usually call this nature being shy. We tell ourselves that the rustle in the leaves or the sudden silence of the birds is just a minor interruption in a quiet walk. We assume that if we are respectful and still, we are part of the scenery. But the data suggests something much darker. To that squirrel, and to almost every wild creature on this planet, you aren't just a hiker. You are a biological anomaly. You are a super predator more terrifying than any wolf or bear. The question is, why does the world go silent the moment you arrive? For a long time, we assumed animals were mostly afraid of things that wanted to eat them. If you are a deer, you run from the wolf. If you are a mountain lion, you run from nothing. But in 2017, researchers Justine Smith and Liana Zanet decided to test that assumption in the Santa Cruz Mountains of California. They placed hidden speakers near sites where mountain lions or pumas had recently killed prey. When the pumas returned to eat, the speakers triggered. Sometimes they played the sounds of frogs or local birds. Other times they played the sounds of the puma's only natural enemies, barking hounds. But the third sound was different. It was just the sound of human beings talking. Not shouting, not hunting, just the calm, conversational tones of a BBC documentary or a talk radio show. The results were immediate and strange. The pumas didn't just look up, they fled. They abandoned their food in over 80% of the cases when they heard a human voice. They ran faster and stayed away longer than they did when they heard barking dogs. To a mountain lion, one of the most successful killing machines in the Americas, the sound of two people talking about the weather was more terrifying than a pack of predators specifically trained to hunt them. The researchers realized that for these animals, the human voice isn't just a noise. It is a signature of danger that overrides every other instinct, including hunger. This is what scientists call the landscape of fear. It is a psychological map that every animal carries, and right now, humans are the largest, darkest shape on that map. To understand why a mountain lion would starve itself rather than listen to a podcast, you have to look at the numbers. In 2015, a team led by researcher Chris Darramont published a massive study in the journal Science. They looked at over 2,000 predator-prey interactions across the globe to see how humans compare to the rest of the natural world. They found that humans don't just hunt, we hunt in a way that is biologically unrecognizable. In the wild, most predators target the young, the old, or the sick. It is safer and more efficient. But humans target the healthy, breeding adults, the trophies. This has a devastating effect on populations, but it also creates a unique kind of terror. The study revealed that humans kill adult prey at a rate up to 14 times higher than other top carnivores. We are not just another predator in the chain. We are an outlier that has broken the rules of engagement. Because we kill so many healthy adults so quickly, animals haven't had the thousands of years of evolutionary time needed to develop a nuanced response to us. Instead, they have developed a universal one: total avoidance. We have become a ghost in the ecosystem, a threat that can strike from a distance, through a wall, or in the middle of a peaceful afternoon. The fear isn't just about being eaten, it's about the fact that we are the only predator that doesn't follow the logic of the forest. This fear has become so pervasive that it is literally changing the schedule of life on Earth. In 2018, Caitlin Gaynor and her team analyzed data from 62 species on 6 continents to see how they reacted to human presence. They found a global trend that they called the nocturnal shift. Across the board, from elephants in Africa to wild boar in Europe, animals are becoming significantly more active at night. On average, mammals increase their nocturnality by about 40% in areas where humans were present. They are giving up the sunlight and the warmth of the day just to avoid the hours when we are awake. Think about the cost of that trade. An animal that is naturally meant to hunt or forage in the light is now trying to navigate, find food, and protect its young in the dark. They are working with less information and more risk, all because our presence is perceived as a permanent state of emergency. We aren't even there to hunt them most of the time. We are just hiking or driving or living in houses nearby. But the footprint of our presence, the sound of our engines, the scent of our skin, the light from our windows, creates a wall of terror that pushes the rest of the living world into the shadows. We are essentially forcing the planet to live in a different time zone just so they don't have to look at us. But nature is rarely simple, and there is a strange complication to this landscape of fear. Sometimes animals make a deal with the devil. Scientists call this the human shield effect. In places like Grand Teton National Park, researchers noticed that female moose would often move their calves closer to roads and human infrastructure during the birthing season. At first, it looked like they were getting used to us, but the reality was more calculating. The moose were using us as a barrier against grizzly bears. The bears were so terrified of humans that they wouldn't go near the roads, even for a meal. The moose realized that while humans are dangerous and unpredictable, we are also loud and stationary. They chose the monster they could see over the predator they couldn't. This creates a tragic irony. When we see a deer in our backyard or a moose near a trailhead, we think it's a sign of connection. We think the animal trusts us. In reality, that animal might be there because it is so desperate to escape a more immediate death that it is willing to hide behind the scariest thing in the woods. It is not an act of trust. It is a high-stakes gamble. They are betting that we are too busy with our phones or our conversations to notice them, while they use our terrifying aura as a protective shield. This constant state of high alert comes with a physical price tag. Fear is not just a feeling, it is a physiological drain. When an animal perceives a human threat, its body floods with cortisol. Its heart rate spikes and its digestive system shuts down to redirect energy to its muscles. If this happens once or twice a day, the animal survives. But in a world where humans are everywhere, this stress becomes chronic. A study on elk found that when they are frequently disturbed by hikers or off-road vehicles, they spend less time eating and more time scanning the horizon. This leads to lower body fat, lower birth rates, and a weaker immune system. The fear doesn't have to kill them directly to be lethal. It can starve them, or freeze them, or leave them too exhausted to survive the winter. We are essentially polluting the environment with stress. We saw exactly how much we were weighing down the world in the year 2020. During the early months of the global lockdowns, scientists observed a phenomenon they called the anthropause. As billions of people stayed inside, the human hum of the planet suddenly went quiet. In San Francisco, white-crowned sparrows began singing more quietly, but with more complex melodies, because they no longer had to shout over the roar of traffic. In cities around the world, wildlife began exploring empty streets and parks they hadn't touched in decades. It wasn't just that the animals were reclaiming the land, it was that the landscape of fear had momentarily dissolved. The pressure was lifted, and the world took a breath. But as soon as the lockdowns ended, the ghost returned. The sparrows went back to shouting, and the mountain lions went back to fleeing from the sound of talk radio. This leaves us with a difficult realization. Most of us who spend time in nature do so because we love it. We want to be close to it, to understand it, and to protect it. We see ourselves as the guardians of the wild. But to the wild itself, we are the primary source of trauma. Our love for the outdoors is, in a very literal, biological sense, a disturbance. Every time we step off a trail to get a better photo or speak a little too loudly on a hike, we are sending a ripple of panic through an ecosystem that is already exhausted from trying to avoid us. We like to think of the forest as a place of silence and peace, but that silence is often something we create. When you walk into the woods, the quiet that falls over the trees isn't a natural state. It is a reaction to you. The birds have stopped their alarms, the squirrels have frozen, and the predators have moved into the brush. You are walking through a room where everyone has just stopped talking because a stranger walked in. The evidence suggests that we may never truly know the natural behavior of many wild animals, because the moment we are there to observe them, they change who they are to stay alive. This doesn't mean we should never go outside or that we are inherently evil. It just means we need to accept our place in the story. We are the super predator. We are the species that kill 14 times more than the lion. We have earned the terror we see in those bolting squirrels through thousands of years of being the most dangerous thing on earth. The tragedy of modern humans is that we want to be part of the family of life, but we have become so powerful that we have accidentally exiled ourselves. We are the only creatures that can love a world that is desperately trying to hide from us. Maybe the most respectful thing we can do is to acknowledge the gap, to understand that when a bird flies away, it isn't just being flighty, it is making a rational decision based on the history of its kind. The next time you are on a trail and you feel that deep sense of peace, remember the landscape of fear. Somewhere just out of sight, in the shadows or the thickets, a heart is racing. An animal is waiting for the sound of your voice to fade so it can go back to the difficult business of being alive. We aren't just visitors in the woods. We are the ghosts that haunt them. And the highest form of appreciation might be realizing that the most beautiful parts of nature are the ones we will never be allowed to see, because we are the reason they are hiding.